Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another review here on Pez of the Mind. I am James Phoenix, and this is review number 2 in our 4-movie holiday extravaganza thing that we're doing. Anyway, today's movie is this little gem. I found this in the donation bin at the library I work at. I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. I'll check that out. This is The Nutcracker, The Untold Story, also known as it was during its brief theatrical run as The Nutcracker 3D. It's not on 3D on DVD, obviously, which is why they changed the name. Piece of junk. There we go. Anyway, so this is a mixed bag. Oh, by the way, with me is Chris the Mole, by the way.
Hello.
Chris has not seen the movie. He's just here to hear about it and give some opinions based on how it sounds, I guess. So I have someone to bounce off of. So, starring in this, the star of the movie playing the main character, Clara. This does, generally speaking, follow the plot of the Nutcracker ballet. If you've seen that, of course, by Tchaikovsky. So the general plot is the same. Elle Fanning plays Clara, the little girl, the main character. Of course, she's the younger sister of Dakota Fanning. This movie is several years old, I should know. This is from 2010, so she's obviously much older now. She plays Clara, the young girl who receives the Nutcracker. Right there. Nathan Lane plays Uncle Albert, who gives her the Nutcracker. And John Turturro over here, he plays the Rat King, of course, the main antagonist of the Nutcracker. There are a number of other great people in the movie. There is the I can never remember the kid's name, but this kid here, he played Peter Pan in one of the Peter Pan movies. He plays the Nutcracker when he's in his prince form. I've forgotten his name, Charlie something. I think it was Peter Pan. I think.
No
idea. I don't remember. It's not important. Anyway, and Frances Della Tour is in this movie and got completely shafted on the cover, which is annoying because she's a great actress. But anyway, this is a very mixed bag. I should also know there are a variety of new songs, all written, lyricized by Tim Rice, who is generally not bad.
Did they at least include the scene where the Nutcracker woman ends up stabbing her mother, the rat, with a sword?
No, I don't think that was in there.
Super relevant. It's on Netflix now.
Nice. Well, that's an alternate version for another review. At any rate, this is a musical. However, well, I should preface this by saying, if you look at this online, you'll note that Rotten Tomatoes and whatnot have given this a horrible rating. This has like a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I thought it had 0.
Did it have 0? I thought it was a 20. Let's see. Tomatoes. Record 3D. Let's see. Jumping around. But I kind of liked it. I didn't think it was that bad, although I understand why the critics probably had some concerns with it. I know one of the big problems was the fact that there's no actual ballet in this movie, despite it being based on a ballet. So I can understand why that might upset some people. They went in an interesting direction here. This entire thing was directed and produced by a let's see, what is his name here? He's in here somewhere. A gentleman by the name of Andrei Kochalovsky. And he actually apparently first conceived of the idea of this version of the Nutcracker back in the 70s, according to the featurette that's on here. And it took him like 40 years to get the movie made. I can see why. But effectively, it follows the general plot of the Nutcracker. Clara is the young girl who is, of course, on Christmas Eve is being a little... Her parents are not getting into the Christmas spirit, and Uncle Albert shows up and gives her the Nutcracker toy. And this leads into a fantastical adventure where the Nutcracker comes to life, and she follows him on an adventure to stop the Rat King and get back his kingdom. First of all, I will say one thing. Well, it's not first off anymore, but the songs in the movie are all, for the most part, just the instrumentals from the ballet with lyrics that Tim Rice added. And none of them are particularly long, which kind of annoyed me. Because, like, they were decent, so they were okay songs. Some of them were better than others, but they seem to be, like, all under a minute. Like, they were really, really short songs.
Also, yes, Rotten Tomatoes says 0%.
Fair enough. It's a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes. It got panned by everybody. Thank you.
I saw you look it up before, but I was like, wait, he's not saying why. Oh, I must have been the one correct.
You were correct. I couldn't find it. I searched it under this title and it didn't come up. It's because it was under the 3D. I didn't think about that. That was my bad. I will say, though, despite the fact that there are... This is a unique interpretation. I think that's what turned a lot of people off. The fact that, number one, there's no actual ballet. The instrumentals had lyrics added. And the fact that the interpretations of some aspects were changed. Like, for example, the Rat King, when you go into his kingdom, it had a very fascist influence. It was supposed to be kind of Nazi-like, which was an interesting idea, but I don't think they had enough development time for that to pay off.
To be fair, the fact it had no ballet shouldn't be as big factor as you're saying. Only reason why is they've done loads of Nutcracker stories over the years. Like even Tom and Jerry have done the Nutcracker without using ballet. No one complained.
Fair enough. Well, as I said, the movie starts off with Clara as at home, and her parents are going out on Christmas Eve, which upsets her and her brother, who are stuck at home. And Uncle Albert comes over to watch them, and he gives Clara this big fancy dollhouse that has some dolls in it, one of which is the Nutcracker, which he gives her as a special doll. And one thing I will say, Nathan Lane, of course, is playing Uncle Albert, who it's hinted might be Albert Einstein. That's always been kind of a thing in the Nutcracker. One thing I'll say about Nathan Lane is that his German accent is ridiculous. Not that it's not convincing, it's just one of those really stereotypical German accents. And Nathan Lane seems like he's having so much fun with the role. Like, even though the accent is, it's clearly not that realistic of an accent, it's just fun to watch. I don't know. You see, everything is relative. It's so much fun. I love it. So, props to Nathan Lane for being fun, at least in this movie. Everybody seemed to have fun in this movie, and that's a big plus in its favor. They all seem to be really enjoying themselves.
And from the sounds of it, racist.
Well, he's supposed to be Albert Einstein, so he was doing a really stereotypical Albert Einstein impression, which includes the German accent.
Yes, but doing a bad German accent, I'm just saying, a little racist.
A little bit. I don't think it was
it's like if you do an impression of, say, Apu from The Simpsons, and you do it badly on TV, people will still make fun of you for doing a Indian person. I'm sorry, Europeans still count.
That's true. That's true.
Despite what Americans like to believe.
Fair enough. Yeah, it was a little stereotypical, but he was still having a lot of fun, obviously, so that was good. But if you want to talk about stereotypical racist, we'll get there in a minute. But so, of course, she receives the Nutcracker toy here, which is very nicely designed. I like how it has a round head. That's a little bit different than most versions, so that's kind of cool, a little bit unique. And she goes to bed, and one thing that the director did do here that was kind of cool was it's a very subtle transition into the fantasy. You don't really know where the line is. Because, like, she wakes up, and the Nutcracker is alive and talking to her. And then she puts it on the bookshelf, and he falls off and gets a lot bigger. But then, he goes and hides, and she jumps into bed, and Frances Delatour, who plays, like, the nursemaid, the children's nanny, runs in and is like, what was that noise? What's going on? So it's like, you're still in the real world, but the Nutcracker's alive. Like, it blurs the line, and that's kind of cool. Like, you don't totally know when you're going into the fantasy world, but you always know when you're coming out of it because she abruptly wakes up. So it's an interesting dynamic there. The Nutcracker comes to life and explains that, could you help me out? And they go down and meet his friends who live in the dollhouse, and they include an overweight clown who is sensitive about his weight, so we don't talk about that. There is a very proper monkey in a suit, and there is a third character who is called Styx, who plays the drums, who is it turns out to be a little stereotypically black. Like it had that stereotypical like Jamaican accent. It just seemed a little like, Uncle Albert's calling me Styx, man, like that. It's like, okay, I think you're going a little over the top with this.
In the words of Mike Adamley, "You're making me crazy."
Pretty much. I miss Mike Adamley.
No one misses Mike Adamley.
Fair enough.
Not even his parents miss him.
Ouch. So anyway, the Nutcracker guy says that he has a plan and takes Clara down to meet his friends. And then they ride up, jump in a little sleigh car, which the monkey uses a crank to crank them up into the Christmas tree that has become giant and into the sky. And there's that Clara questions, wait, did we get bigger? Did we get smaller? Or did the room get bigger? And the Nutcracker says, it's as Uncle Albert says, it's all relative.
Yeah, it's part of the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids shared universe.
Or that. But anyway, they ride up into the tree and they go and meet the Snow Queen, the snow fairy person right here.
Oh, the Snow Queen Elsa.
Kind of. They go and meet her. I think she's supposed to be the Snow Queen and the Sugar Plum Fairy in one, because they didn't really do a Sugar Plum Fairy in this version.
The Snow Plum Fairy?
Something like that. But they meet her in the tree, and she's played by the actress that plays Clara's mother in the real world. And Clara recognizes this, and she says, and because Clara made the custom dress she's an ornament on the tree, and Clara made her dress when in the real world, and so she compliments the dress that she made and everything in the fantasy world, which is neat. And it's revealed over the course of these few minutes that the Nutcracker is actually a prince, and that the evil Rat King stole his kingdom from him and cast him out and turned him into a puppet. Specifically, the turning into a puppet part was a curse put on by the Rat King's mother, the Rat Queen. And that if Clara believes she could turn him into a real boy, which she does briefly, turn him into the prince here. Unfortunately, the Rat King has some spies, and he finds out about this, and the Rat Queen drinks some rat juice, which gives her power, and she recasts the curse and turns it back into a puppet again. Now, like, how did the Rat King... She recast the curse, but how did they find out it was broken?
Is rat juice for rats, or juice made entirely of rats?
I believe it's juice for rats, because rats were drinking it. Although, if there was also a slight... one of those slight things there is a little while after this whole situation, Clara falls out of the tree in a bit of a situation after she dances with some fairies, and she wakes up suddenly, and she wakes up and runs downstairs looking for the Nutcracker to find out what happened. And her parents have just come home from the event that they were out at, and the Frances Delatour, the nursemaid, runs down, her father's like, "What is going on here? Why is she like, what's going on?" And she starts yelling about things and everything else. And the nursemaid starts apologizing, and he yells at the nursemaid. He's like, "You think I don't know what's going on here? I can smell the brandy on you." It's like, oh, rat juice. It was brandy. That's funny. Because Frances Delatour plays the Rat Queen as well in the fantasy world, I should note.
Then I would say it's just juice.
Fair enough.
Because you wouldn't give orange juice to an orange.
Then it's just juice. Fair enough. She called it rat juice, not me. She's the one that said, "My rat juice, bring my rat juice."
She's a little girl with crazy puppets. You can't take her word for it.
That's true. So, and of course, periodically, whenever one of the iconic Nutcracker songs will kick up, and they will put some lyrics to it. Like I said, the first one was Uncle Albert singing everything. Was da da dun 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 da da dun da da dun da 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 dun.
He wasn't
everything is relative. No, sadly.
I loved the Animaniacs song when they did his equation and they were trying to spell acme but messed it up.
Oops.
But, is that an E? No, it's just how I do A's.
Oh, okay. But so she ends up going back up to sleep, and she wakes up again, and the Nutcracker is back, and her brother sees him this time, and her brother, who likes to go around and play like he's a soldier type dude, like he's a hero type dude, He says that he's Captain Max, and Nutcracker enlists him to help out with the plan. But they go downstairs, and the Nutcracker and his friends are captured by the Rat King, who Max takes a liking to because the Rat King has all the fascist rats have cool technology. Specifically, the Rat King has a motorbike, which Max has always wanted to ride on a motorbike. And the Rat King has this cool motorbike that he rides through the sewers like he's the Rat King from the Ninja Turtles. And so Max sides with the Rat King and betrays Clara, and they ride off on their motorbike with the Nutcracker and his friends in tow. And we get back to the Rat Kingdom. And previously, when we saw the Rat King, and he was singing a song in the Rat Kingdom about how he was in charge, and rats are better than people, and yada yada yada. And we found out the Rat King's plan was that basically he took over the kingdom, deposed the prince, but the rats hate sunlight, so the rats set up a bunch of large factories where they burned toys, and the burning toys created a smoke cloud that blocked out the sun.
Is it possible at this point, audience, he may be confusing them with Dracula?
I'm just telling you what they said in the movie. I'm not making this up.
Also, fun fact, that story could not have taken place where you live.
Nope.
Because, and this is a fact, you can look it up, there is no rats in America, and the streets are made of cheese.
It's true.
American Tail, in case you're wondering.
5.
Or actually, it might have been American Tail 2.
5 Goes West?
Yeah, it was either American Tail or American Tail 2, one of the two.
There's
no cats in America, and the streets are made of cheese. It was awesome.
Both significantly better movies than this.
Probably.
Yeah. So we follow the adventure back to the kingdom that the Rat King has taken a hold of, and Clara manages to, with the help of the monkey guy in the suit, who is prim and proper monkey dude, and he manages to get not captured, and he helps Clara go through a magic mirror to get into the Rat King's kingdom. Because sure, why not? And so they get to the Rat King's kingdom, and the Rat King sings a song telling everybody they should support ratification. It's a pun. And basically, the idea that they want everybody to pass a vote where they agreed that everybody should be turned into rats.
I can see that.
Needless to say, not everyone wants to do this, but he sings another song at this point. And one of the cool things they did do that they mentioned in the featurette was that the Rat King's original song, where he talked about being evil and being in charge, there's not really an overall evil-sounding song in the Nutcracker. Even in the Rat King sections, it's not that evil-sounding. So they actually borrowed a section from one of Tchaikovsky's other symphonies, and they stuck it in there so that they have an evil-sounding song. So that was neat.
Yep, there wouldn't be a really evil song in it, because most ballets don't have evil Disney villain songs. So even when it's evil, you're like, oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So they get back to the kingdom where Max realizes that the Rat King is kind of an evil dude, burning all the toys and being a jerk to everybody. And he's played with glee by John Turturro, I might add. He's dancing around, he's jumping on things, he's loving it. So he turns on the Rat King, and Clara manages to get away, and Clara manages to sneak into the toy burning factory and find the Nutcracker and his toy friends. And the toy friends distract the rat guards with their music. They do that the iconic dun 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 dun. They do that song, but they translate it into something to the general effect of "Don't need an excuse to go, rat, go." And the rats are dancing to distract to the music. And so Clara sneaks in and manages to pull the Nutcracker, who has had his leg broken off and seems to be dead, off of the conveyor belt into the inferno, the furnace. And she puts his leg back on, and she thinks he's dead, and she cries on him, and then he comes back to life, and they're happy, and he turns back into a real boy, permanently this time. And they go out and they chase they fight, and they manage to once they realize the prince is alive, all the humans that the rats enslaved in the factory rise up, and they beat the rats up and chase them out when they realize their prince is alive, and they chase all the rats away, and then they follow the Rat King they have a chase with the Rat King in the building. Meanwhile, Max was held in a cage, and he convinced the Rat Queen to let him go because the Rat Queen wanted to scurry away, telling your son, the Rat King, that's what rats do. We scurry away. And so she wanted to leave, so Max convinced her he could fly the flying machine they have to get her away. So they're doing that. The Rat King is being chased around by Clara, and the Nutcracker now trying to take him out, and they have a run through. He manages to get in the helicopter. They manage to get on the helicopter when he swoops down to try to get the Nutcracker. They have a fight on the helicopter. It crashes. And the Rat King and Queen turn back into regular rats, and they scurry into a sewer and leave, and the Nutcracker declares the kingdom his again. Happy ending. And then there's an emotional goodbye where Clara has to get on the train and go back to the real world. And she wakes up back in the real world, and Uncle Albert comes over again and says, "Oh, I'm glad to see you again, Clara." And meanwhile, there is another section where Uncle Albert performed a song for Clara's father, reminded him that he used to be a kid and he used to remember how to be imaginative too, and that he shouldn't be so harsh on Clara for having her head in the clouds and being a kid, basically. And Uncle Albert's the best character. And Uncle Albert he reminds him that he used to have a magic pebble when he was a kid that made him ruler of all. And he pulls the pebble out of his pocket and says, "I kept it for you, don't worry." And the father's all happy again. And then Uncle Albert walks out of the room and pulls a bunch of his pockets like, "It's a good thing I remember to bring my lucky pebbles." And Clara comes down the stairs after the adventure, and Uncle Albert says, "Oh, by the way, I wanted to introduce you to someone." And they go in the center and said, the Nutcracker, the entire thing had been referred to as NC. He didn't like being called Nutcracker. He told everybody to call him NC. And at the end, Uncle Albert leads Clara into a room where, sitting in front of the dollhouse, there's a boy. He says, "I'd like you to meet my new neighbor, Nicholas Charles." And it's the kid that played the Nutcracker, and she introduces herself, and he says, "Call me NC for short." And they said to play with the dollhouse, and that's the happy ending. So, is it a fun production? Yes. Does it have some flaws? Yes. Did it deserve 0 on Rotten Tomatoes? No, I don't think so. It's not good, but it's not that bad either. One of the other a couple of the big issues with this. Number one, I said the songs were very short, and they just tried to add lyrics to the classic instrumentals from the symphony, the ballet, and it worked in some instances. It did not work in others. So that was definitely a concern there. As the songs were really short, it felt like they were just getting started and then they ended. And that was a concern I had. The dance numbers they did have, they didn't really have ballet, but they did have some dance numbers, and the choreography and dance numbers were good. The actors did all seem to be having fun, and they sang pretty well, so that was good. Elle Fanning is very convincing with the emotion she's putting into being Clara. That was really good. Her acting was great. The other thing is, it seemed like they had a lot of different things they were trying to do with this, and not all of them panned out. Like, there's 2 scenes where Uncle Albert, it cuts to Uncle Albert, and he, like, talks to the camera like he knows the audience is there. The first is at the very beginning of the movie where he, like, introduces it, and then later on where he says, I think there's something wrong. Not Clara, Mary. Sorry, they changed the name for the movie. Mary is her name. Clara is her name in the ballet. He said, I think there's something wrong with Mary's house. I better go and check. And it seems like he's like kind of knows everything that's going on, and he does appear briefly in the fantasy world. She sees him on a street when he points her toward the Rat King's palace. So it seems like he knows the imagination of what's going on. But they only had this thing twice where he talks to the audience, and it feels like if they were going to do that, there should have been more of that. Like, it was a good framing device, but they didn't go all the way with it. So that was definitely something they could have worked on. Like I said, the songs seemed to be a concern because they didn't seem like they went as far, like they weren't as long as they should have been. But overall, if I had to rate this, I'd probably give this like 70 out of 100. It's not a bad movie. I'd say if you like the Nutcracker, it's worth a shot. It's a fun little adventure. It's an hour and 45, so it's not the longest movie in the world. Sit down, give it a shot. You know, you'll hear some classic ballet songs. You'll hear the lyrics to them, which are fun here and there. You're going to see the effects are really good. The effects they use for some of the dancing snow things in the tree, making the tree look giant, everything look big in that one scene. For all the Rat King's and Army's technology, they have these like jetpacks with wings and the helicopter and everything else. They got a lot of cool stuff. The sets look really good. The production value on this was great, and it looked like all the production people did a great job on this. And it just seemed like it fell, and the actors were doing good too. They had a good cast. It just seemed like it fell a little bit short in the writing and composition department. I feel like the adaptation idea didn't completely come to fruition as well as it could have, and that the music it would have been better to either try to make things a little bit longer or to just write original songs if they were going to go in that direction.
It also looks like from the cover and from what you were saying as well. I've seen the cover, but yes, it looks like and sounds like they've done the stupid thing that people do,
What's that?
where they try to modernize it, but not
Yeah,
fully.
yeah,
Because
that's exactly right.
the clothes look old. The Nutcracker looks like a new modern Nutcracker, which is stupid. Because why would you change the iconic Nutcracker? But then they have motorbikes, jetpacks. He's called NC. That just sounds like no. It sounds like a load of old people who show up to schools and like, come on, kids, we can teach you about the Nutcracker, or NC as he's known in our neighborhood. Come on,
Yeah,
kids. It sounds like it. It's that to me sounds like it deserves that 0.
yeah. Well, you're right. They did try to modernize it, but not all the way. That was a little hard to work with. I do
I
agree
always
with
hate
that.
it when they do that.
Yeah, that was a little frustrating. That's pretty much sums it up. I didn't think about it till you said it, but that's about right. But I still enjoyed it. I mean, it was a fun little movie. Certainly not the best version of the Nutcracker, but it's not bad. It's got a decent cast. They sing well. It's a fun little romp, and the effects are great to look at. This was originally released as the Nutcracker 3D in theater, so I can only imagine how good these effects would have looked in 3D because they look pretty damn good in 2D. So clearly they put a lot of work into that, and I just think it felt the story fell a little bit flat just in trying to stick in a lot of new elements, and they've tried to put so much in, it didn't all flow together, and I felt the music was a little lacking just by virtue of the short songs, and in fact they tried to match them all to the symphony, which was good, or I should say to the ballet, which was good, but because some of those aren't that long, they ended up being shorter because they're kind of repetitive music, so I think that's why they were doing that. And because in this, an hour and 45-minute movie, they fit like 12 songs in here, which none of which was all that long. But overall, evokes some good emotion. It's an enjoyable movie if you like the Nutcracker. Like I said, I give it about a 70 out of 100, thereabouts. So, yeah, that is the Nutcracker, the Untold Story. 2 down, 2 to go. Stay tuned. Coming up this month, we will be doing Arthur Christmas and the Polar Express.
Yep, we will.
Mole, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time, folks. Merry Christmas.